again for an informative video. We're going to talk about buying saddles today. I'm doing this for beginners, advanced people. There are so many things that I get PO'd about when people are selling saddles and not being honest about it. So this is to educate you what to look for on your saddle, the do's and don'ts to when to buy one and not to buy one. This is not going to be about saddle fitting. You can go to YouTube and watch some of the great videos on there on how to fit your saddle to your horse. However, this is going to tell you about the equipment, what to look for, and when to walk away and say no, or when to know when you're being taken advantage of. Because I just had a client, unfortunately, had that happen to them, and we're going to discuss their saddle. What saddles are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the Western saddle. We're going to talk about the English saddle. And this is the saddle in question that we are going to really talk about today, because there's so many problems with this saddle. And it's a safety issue. When you watch this video, we'll see why this could have been a very detrimental injury or even fatal injury if this if they would have continued to use this saddle or even have it repaired. Do you have it repaired or not if it's a used saddle when you go to buy it? Maybe it's got a few issues that need to have fixed. When do you walk away from buying a saddle? So let's get started. I'm going to pause this for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and move things around, and we are going to get started on each individual saddle and what to look for. Okay, so we're at the work desk here, and I'm going to show you about this saddle here. One thing, when you do buy a new saddle or used saddle, please do not lay them like this. Do not lay them on their horn. Get a saddle stand of any kind to put them on. It just helps save the integrity of the saddle. Also, too, you're not creating any pressure points for your horse when you get it on. So this is a crappy saddle. Unfortunately, the people that just bought this saddle brought it in because it has damage to it. They wanted to see if I could fix it, okay? I told them no. And the reason why I told them no is for liability reasons. So the people who brought this saddle in, unfortunately, bought this from a seller, tack shop. And the thing is that they got hurt on it. There was an accident with the horse. They got hurt on it. And this could have been eliminated by not buying the saddle at all because it's not a good saddle, okay? This saddle is either made from India or Pakistan. I would say more India because of the quality of the leather. I'm gonna show you the damage to it and you're gonna go, oh wow. So, what's wrong with this saddle? Let's go. This is stay away from saddles of this nature, okay? So number one, if it's a newer saddle, which it looks like it could have been really brand new without where they had the accident because the horse tumbled and the saddle went over, okay? And what happened was, when we move all this out of the way, okay? Look at here, completely ripped away. I'm gonna move this so you can see it a little bit. It ripped away. This is called your rigging plate, okay? The way that this saddle was put together, this is a cheap old rigging plate. This is what holds your cinch on. You need this to be sturdy. You need this to be sort of like at an angle so that it has some pressure this way. Now, they use nice burr and rivet screws. However, looking at this saddle is garbage because this leather, if you even get a close-up of it, is extremely dry, extremely thin, and there is no shim, no heavy leather underneath that. So this was going to give way no matter the size of the person or anything, okay? This is a huge thing to look at when you are buying your saddles, guys. What is the leather? How thick is the leather? Okay, this bottom leather here it's very deceitful. It looks like it's 12-ounce leather. However, this is just a calf skin binding. And if I get a knife and I split this, I split my thumb open doing some work. So let me see if I can do this really quickly because it split. This is going in the garbage. They didn't even want to keep it. because they're worried about safety. This is a safety issue, guys. Safety issue. Okay, underneath is not even thick leather. It's just the shearling to a really thin piece of calf skin, or this one here looks like calf skin. There's no even leather underneath there. This is your leather. This isn't even 10 ounce or 12 ounce leather. This tells me this was made in another country. This is not, and the quality of this is crap. So what do I mean by crap? It's probably not cow, because if this is made in India, cows are actually sacred in India. So they probably used something else or got it from another country. It could be yak, it could be water buffalo, it could be whatever. However, this thin of leather, I was irate when I saw this. I was so mad. $800 they paid for this, okay? This is number one. This rigging plate was probably from China, an Alibaba company, or like a Temu or whatever. Same with your back one. Your back one is not as important as your front one, because this is not carrying a lot of the stress. This is carrying majority of the stress of your saddle. Okay, and this rigging plate, did they even put it in the proper place? Because if you put a rigging plate too far forward, your back of your saddle is going to go up. If they put the rigging plate too far back, then you're going to have more weight in the back, which your center of balance on a horse is when you stand in the stirrups. Imagine yourself standing in those stirrups. That is the center of balance for a horse. So if the rigging plate is too far forward, too back, you might even see a double rigging plate. Good, not a problem. Do not buy a saddle with this thin of a rigging plate. Do not buy a saddle when you've got them straight up and down. And look at this. This just irates me. There's no leather underneath there. It's just the shearling. This is the shearling, okay? Yes, I'm getting excited because somebody could have been killed. That's the problem where I get excited on. Big problem. Absolutely no, walk away from this saddle. The other thing is they take and they put a thin piece of leather, which you wouldn't even use for a belt around your waist, and then they throw some webbing in the back for support. They do that to cut costs. The other thing is on this one, you're looking at your fenders, and these are your leathers. This is all one piece. When we do saddle work, we have to put the fender onto this part, which is called your leather, your stirrup leather. Again, a crappy piece of thin leather, and then they got to make it support it so it doesn't tear with some webbing. And the holes are so huge, your thing could come right out of there. Okay, this isn't as important. Let me show you the quality of this leather. What you want to watch for when you're buying a saddle is do not buy a saddle that is doing all this wrinkling. Move your leather around. Move it. It should not wrinkle like this. Okay, and there is a spot here I'm going to show you that is really bad, and this is why. Okay, this isn't even really tooled. This is machine. Boom. They just stamped that on there. However, this is cracking. It's separating. That is bad quality leather. Okay, bad quality leather. And again, this is thin and cheap. Okay, thin and cheap. The other thing too on this one here, okay, nice little conchos, sure, looks nice. The seat looks nice, yep, it's nice. Okay, the seat, they did a good job on that because they want to sell you by looks. Okay, your saddle strings, these are so thin that if they wanted to put something heavy on it, or say they were getting ready to fall or whatever, and they wanted to grab onto them, these are so thin that they could snap. Saddle strings, they're meant to hold something on and stay in place. Same with the front or the back, okay? But if you're looking at the top of this, this is actually wrinkling as well. Then you know it is, oh, here it is. Okay, why they have this here, it's more of a, but you take a look at this, and if this was supposed to protect you from your rigging plate, look at this, how thin this isn't even 5 inch. And look at how it's cracking. This is what you want to really focus in on your saddles, is the type of leather they're using, especially if it's a newer saddle. The other thing is that you cannot see it, but there's going to be a tip that I'm going to show you, that you want to make sure you're not buying a hollow pommel, okay? If it's fiberglass, it is going to be hollow. Then it can be dangerous. Fiberglass breaks very easily, so if your horse were to tumble like this one did, this has some stability to it. However, if it is fiberglass made, you want to stay away from it. There's a couple ways to tell, okay? Knock on your pommel. If it sounds hollow, it is. If it sounds like it's a little bit stable, it is. But I would say this is a fiberglass tree with probably some heavier support in the corners of the fiberglass. This woman is brand new to horses, and she wanted to have a nice fit on top, okay? Wrong. You want to fit the horse first. So the most important part to this saddle is the gullet, the back, and the bars of where that is, okay? That has to match the horse first. Comfort second. So anything from the bars below, horse. Anything from the seat above, you, okay? First, horse. Okay, I'm going to tell you that over and over and over again, because everybody's buying saddles because it looks pretty. No, okay, please don't do that. Please don't do that. So this has to fit the horse first, okay? So we're gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna show you some things with this. Do's and don'ts on the underside. You flip that saddle, if it's in a saddle stand, you flip it upside down and you see how the fleece is. This is fake fleece. This is a fake golden fleece. There's fake natural fleeces. Another typical thing that I know that this was made in India is how this bottom is put together. I don't think that I have ever seen a real saddle maker or any saddles really, other than they're made from outside the country, to place fleece on this inner portion. That is to be open, either to be open or a leather piece put underneath it. It should not have fleece on it. They're trying to hide something, okay? They're trying to hide something. So let me cut some of this away. Remember, I'm looking as a person who repairs saddles. I'm looking for something that is, I want a wood tree with fiberglass around it, or I want a wood tree with rawhide around it. So you want to see what this is. Now somebody's saying, well, what about treeless saddles? We'll talk about that in a minute, because this is the important side. So if you have the opportunity to see this on your saddle, you sort of knock on it a little bit, okay? This one here is completely fiberglass, and I'm going to try to get in closer because I know that I can get in a close-in shot of it later. However, if you can see in there, it is covered with fiberglass, but the inside of it is also fiberglass. How can I tell? Because I'm looking down in there, and it is not wood. It is not wood. And I can tell by the structure of this here. So what they did was, and the lady, when I ripped it open, she goes, oh my God, is it cracked? Because I told her, I said, if you fell and it's a poor quality saddle, is your tree cracked? You do not want to ride on a cracked tree by any means. Very dangerous. So you would not be able to tell unless you took it to somebody that repairs saddles. So we were looking at the inside here, and she says, oh my gosh, it's cracked. I said, no, they poorly put the fiberglass over the fiberglass to make it look like that it was a wood tree. So again, crappy. The other thing is, about this saddle is when you're looking especially at used saddles, you're looking at what this is. This is fake golden fleece. Well, what's wrong with that? The problem with fake fleece is that it doesn't breathe. It's acrylic material, so it doesn't breathe. It allows your horse to sweat. It wears down faster. So what you want to do when you're looking at a saddle is look at and just sort of peel this back a little bit, and you'll see the fibers right there that show you. You don't have to even have a knife to do this, but you just peel them back and you can see the fibers, or you can see the sheepskin. Okay, you want to look at that because that's going to tell you the longevity of this. Okay, if you're buying a used saddle and saying, well, it has a little bit of shearling gone here, a little bit of shearling gone here, is this going to be a saddle? Maybe I can just refleece it and it'll be fine. Or people say, can I change the bottom of it? Can I change the material on the bottom? Can I change the skirting? This is not the skirting, people. This is the fleece. So skirting is the outside, fleece is the inside, okay? So what you want to pay attention to is if it is losing a little bit of fleece down here or down here or down here, okay, yeah, but you want to save for that because replacing fleece on a Western saddle is going to cost you over $400 because cost of fleece is going up, the labor into it, you got to take the saddle apart, and then you got to put it back together again, depending on how the saddle was made, because I would rather put this under my machine than hand sew it because, oh my gosh, it's a lot of work to hand sew these back on. I did it for years. Thank God I've got Big Bertha now, and we do it by machine. But the thing that you want to look for, okay, and if you buy this saddle, what I'm feeling here is when you turn your saddle or turn the saddle that you want to buy upside down, you'll feel a ridge. Okay, you're going to feel a ridge along here, and this has got really wide. This is called a bar. Okay, these are your saddle's bars. If there is fleece coming off anywhere in this bar, you want to pay attention to it because that will need to be refleeced. If it's down here on the bottom, that's aesthetics. But if it's the fleece is coming off in your bar section, you'll want to have to refleece it. If you don't have an extra $400 to put into it, walk away. Okay, just walk away. There's hundreds of saddles out there right now. Okay, the other thing too to watch for is when you see this, okay, and it is used and somebody hasn't really cleaned it properly, then you want to look for where are the dirty spots. Okay, so this is really dirty here. So more pressure was being on the right front. It didn't really maybe fit this horse that properly. However, where is it? And are those parts of that shearling beginning to thin? So pay attention to the bars in your saddle. Hard part, you can feel the edging of the bars, okay? Really, really important. And then we're going to talk about the gullet, and we're going to talk about a little bit about your D-rings, okay? Depends on the type of riding that you do, where you want those riggings placed, okay? So let's talk about the gullet. Many people, this is your gullet. Like I said, I'm handling this like it's going in the garbage, guys. It's just for educational purposes. So the gullet is this part here. And the thing is, when you go by, there's a couple of tricks as I explained to them. There's some things that you can do, and that's for saddle fitting. But the other thing is, this is the important part, the number one piece that really needs to fit the horse first. Because if you have high withers, low withers, a mutton back, whatever it is, this is going to be your key element to where it's going to sit on the horse. Please watch a saddle fitting video from one of the experts that do that, so you can see if you're placing your saddle, one, in the right position when you're testing out a saddle, and two, that gullet fits that saddle, okay? So please make sure that you take this video and coincide it with a saddle fitting video, okay? So what you want to pay attention to is the gullet size. Why? Because this is where you're creating pressure points. As in this person's, she has another saddle. They put that horse into a different saddle, and she goes, yeah, well, he needs some work on his left side because he's pretty cranky. I said, no, the saddle doesn't fit him. That's why he's cranky. When she rode in this one, the saddle did really, really well. So a horse can become super cranky because you're putting pressure points or ouchies in areas that, especially in that shoulder movement where they're moving, if you've got the saddle placed too high, too low back, or wherever you've got it placed, if it's not allowing that shoulder movement, or it's pinching, or your cinch, I'm sorry, I do not like neoprene cinches, really bad for a horse. However, if you use them, don't comment, don't message me, that's your opinion. But I'm a scuba diver, I don't like you can't breathe, it chafes, it rips hair, blah, 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 blah. So, when you're doing your gullet, because people go up here, oops, like, oh, I'm gonna measure it. Oh, right here. Oh, right here. Oh, down here. Oh, here. Oh, so you don't know where to measure it. You need to measure it from button to button. That's the same thing, almost like with an English saddle, and people measure English saddles incorrectly as well. Okay, so when you're measuring this, okay, you go from button, so basically screw to screw. So this is an 8-inch gullet. This is a very wide tree. This would be a full quarter horse tree, probably a little bit wider, small draft, put it that way, kind of a thing. But this would be for a wide shouldered horse. But the key to this is measure from button to button, not up here, not down here, button to button, okay? That's your gullet size. Now, if you're like, oh my God, well, how am I gonna know when I go look at the saddle or whatever? One of the tricks that you can do is, it's an old trick and it's not 100%, however, it gives you a good idea, is that you take, and I know you might have a hard time finding something like this, but either find an old wire hanger, something that will bend to the shape of the horse's withers. Now this is why I tell you to go watch a saddle fitting video, because it's going to show you where to put that wire on the horse's withers and mold it over the withers. And you're like, why would I do that? Because when you go to a place like a tack shop, which there's very few, and there's a lot of consignment shops, okay, and they have a ton of saddles in there, and you're like, I don't know which one, I don't know which one. If you very carefully don't bend that any other way, lay it flat or whatever, leave it alone, but when you take that to the tack shop or to a saddle, you slide that underneath. And if that doesn't fit, you need to walk away, because if it's got a lot of room here, then the saddle is too wide. If it's pinching and pushing your wire in, it's too narrow. So you need it just to fit perfectly underneath, or you walk away. You're spending money you don't need. Well, but Patty, they've got saddle pads. I have a really thick saddle pad. Band-Aid fix for a bad fit saddle. Okay, so many people are using blankets with shims and things like that to help them fix a saddle for the wrong reasons. Now, shims could be used for changing diversities. You're going from jumping to dressage. You're going from dressage to jumping. You're going from winter, fatty horse, to now working out muscular horse, those kind of things. But it's not to say, oh, okay, well, if I put one shim or two shims in, then the saddle will fit. You need to educate yourself and spend your money effectively and efficiently for the horse, because the horse depends on you. The horse cannot say, don't buy it, don't do that, it's not going to fit me. That's your responsibility as an educated owner of a horse to know your equipment and what is good for your horse, okay? So I'm not going to lecture anymore, but that is one of the things, okay? So now we've got the gullet, we've got the horse, okay, we've got to fit that. You know, the things that are preference, okay? This is your preference here. This is this rounded corner, square corner, silver on the corners, whatever. That's your preference. The horse doesn't give a crap about that. Okay. The other thing too is on a short back horse, like I have a halflinger. The thing is, on a short back horse, you don't need two. You don't need to. You want a rounded skirt, a short skirt. Help that horse out by not putting that extra weight, or also getting towards the croup area where when he's moving and he's moving his behind, that's going to rub against him. A rounded skirting for a short back horse is awesome, okay? So we're going to talk about the seat, because this is what you guys want, right? So this is what I like, a hard seat myself, very comfortable in a hard seat. You're looking at different brands that have different kind of seats, okay? So another thing about this saddle that I would say no is that it's nice and smooth. Okay, if you're going to have a smooth seat, maybe have an insert that's a little bit rough. Okay, you can put like Rough Out, you could put Stingray in there, you could put Elephant, you could put different things that are a little bit more rough, because it'll give you a little more stick. I would not want this seat, because I'm slipping and sliding all over it if I had an accident or I was on a trail and something spooked. These are slippery, these are slippery, these are slippery. Unless I've got really good balance and really good leg work, that you're going to stick. Okay, this is usually Rough Out in a saddle, and a Rough Out helps you stick to a saddle. Okay, just let's for a moment talk about swells on your saddle. We talked about the seat and the cantle. However, swells are extremely important. So being a pleasure saddle, you don't need a high swell. The swell is from this area to this area here. They're going to be higher. They're going to be more depth. They're going to be, at different angles. This is what your tree is made off of. However, it depends on this part of the seat, what you're doing. So on a pleasure saddle, your seat's going to be a little bit shallow here. Your swell is going to be lower here. If you were going to be doing barrel racing, reining, or things of that nature, the swell might be higher, because it's having you sit back a little bit further. And then you want to be able to, like if you're reining and you're stopping, you want to get that deep sit down kind of a thing, because it places you different. You got to know what kind of riding you want to do. So it's really important to know what type of saddle. So if you go and you buy a barrel saddle or a reining saddle that has a deep swell, you're going to be set back. Your feet are going to be set back a little bit further, that kind of a thing. This is a pleasure saddle. This is a good swell, actually. It's not too steep. And it keeps you somewhat in the back of the seat. However, you can, it's easier to move forward and stuff, because you want to really be, if you're on trails and you're doing anything for a length of time, keeping that center of balance for that horse is much more comfortable for them. So the further you sit back in the croup area, then the harder it is on the horse to be able to get that forward movement. All right. One thing I will tell you, if you're a brand new beginner, or if you have trouble with a horse bucking and doing all that kind of stuff, barrel saddles are really, really good because they keep you in the seat a little bit deeper, and you can be able to use your legs a little bit better. barrel saddles are really actually a comfortable saddle. However, they do have that deeper seat. They do have that higher swell. The other thing too is that if you want to add bucking rolls here, which if you want to do that, you can add those. Those can be added to your saddle. But pay attention to your swell here. Pay attention to how deep your seat is. And the cantle is sort of a preference, but this will tell you, and I will tell you, some roping saddles do have a cantle, but they may have that pencil rim that I talked about as well. All right, I hope that helps in the swell area for you. What I want to show you when you're buying a saddle, how to measure your seat, because unfortunately this seller told them that this was a 16-inch seat and the lady needed actually probably an 18-inch seat or even a 19-inch seat. And so this isn't even a 16-inch seat. So let me show you why, okay? And I can tell you why that seller thinks that it's a 16-inch seat. But as working with saddles, we have to know exactly what kind of seat we're putting in, because we're going to go ahead and replace this. Now, when you're buying a saddle and there's some rips in here, unless you have another $400 or more, it's going to cost you to replace this. It's going to be very expensive. It could be up to $600 because this has got padding in it. And when we rip this padding or rip this seat off to put a new seat, go watch my video on replacing a padded seat. We have to take the foam out and everything. We have to sand it down. We have to take these off. We have to undo the stitching here. Very expensive, very extensive, a lot of work, okay? Make sure your seat is in pretty good. Now, if it's a little smooth in spots, I have a video for that, I think, how to clean your suede on your seat. Very easy video. However, let's talk about this seat here, okay? So, you have to measure your seat, and where your tummy starts should start about 2 to 3 fingers in, okay? Some people like 2. Personally, I like to have 3. And I'm going to tell you why that's really important in a minute. However, if this person's tummy was way up to up to here, pushing hard against here, did not fit her at all. Shame on that seller. I would really like to give him a call. Okay, so when you measure a seat, you want to measure the tip, or from, this is called your pommel, this is called your cantle, okay? So you want to measure from here to where your butt is going to go. Okay, so there is padding here, right? Okay, so the person who sold this saddle to her definitely thought that they would go back to the leather. Well, that's not where her butt is stopping, okay? Her behind is stopping at 15. So this is a 15-inch seat for her. So it's not a 16. So you have to know how to measure a saddle correctly, or know yourself. Bring yourself a thing and make sure you can sit on the saddle in the shop. Don't waste time saying, well, I'll go test it, and not even know if it fits you, let alone fit the horse. That's why you're taking it per test. If they do not allow you to take the new or used saddle for testing, and this is why I don't buy online, but I'll explain this in a minute, but you should be able to test it. Unless I'm buying a saddle to sell or to repair or sell myself, then I'll do that, but knowing that it's may fit or not fit the other person's horse. I only like to sell locally if I can. Okay, so they can try it. They can try it. If you can't try it, then don't buy it. And online, you got to be really careful. If you're buying a new or used saddle online, what you want to do, ask them for every picture of every angle of that saddle. Top, bottom, sides, both sides, lift the fenders, or even take a video. Have them take a video, lift the fenders, look at that rigging plate. Make sure that you're asking them every question before you put $1 into that, because shipping costs are very expensive. I use a shipping supplier that you know, this would cost you $80-90 to ship, maybe $100, and it would cost me $30. So it's just because I've been in the business a long time. Okay, but let's get back. So knowing your seat size is really, really important, okay? You've got to know what size seat. So if you have a hard seat, if this was a hard seat and the padding was gone, yes, it would be a 16-inch seat, okay? Because you're going from leather to leather. But you have this is called, well, there's a lot of pencil rims. Like if you're buying a barrel racing saddle, you're not going to have this cantle piece. It's called a pencil rim, where it comes straight up and there is no cantle piece. That is called a pencil rim, and then that one would probably not have padding, and you would go from leather to pommel. Okay, so that's where you would find out on that. All right, so when you're looking at those kind of things, really, it's really, really important. Some saddles will come with a latigo and some will not. What's a latigo? Okay, it's this long piece in front, and please make sure it's one piece of heavy leather. Latigo is usually about 10, 11 ounces. This one here is 2 pieces put together. This would make a great belt. This would make a great belt. They did use it. It did work for a while. However, this is not the way the U.S. makes their the latigos, okay? So the one thing I did forget to mention is about the stirrups. When you buy a new or used saddle, make sure it comes with stirrups, okay? You want to be ready to go. The cinch is a different thing. It should have a latigo with it. If it doesn't, make sure that you get a good quality latigo. We sell them on our website as well, and you can get that. It just should be a good quality leather latigo. I don't like the webbing ones. They slip really easy. That's a personal preference. Even if you hook them in, they just really slippery. I just don't like them. So nice latigo, and that's the part that you cinch through. Okay, but stirrups. So a lot of them may not come with stirrups. If you're in a tack shop, see if they have some used stirrups. Because you can get some used stirrups for maybe $20, $30, but you definitely have to have stirrups. So some stirrups will come like old style with metal on the outside. They'll come with wood on the inside. They may come without the tread. So some leather, it'll be completely leather. Then they'll have a tread. It's really good to have a tread. This is a tread here on it, and there is a video about treads and shims and things of that nature, especially if you have knee problems, knee replacements, hip replacements, things like that, where your feet are not, and they are in the stirrup sort of cattywampus a little bit, and you have a problem after riding a couple hours. You're like, oh my God, my knees. A lot of it has to do with your foot placement, your knees and your hip placement. So watch the shim video, the tread video. But you know, it's up to you. There's so many kinds. This is sort of a standard that comes with stirrups, with saddles. You can get roping, which are just really round ones. You can get all kinds. But if you're just going to trail ride, there's also even quick release ones where part of it is gone and then your foot can really slide out really quick. This is just basically a standard stirrup. It's up to you. You can always buy different stirrups. This is a cheap fix. If it doesn't come with stirrups, cheap fix. Give us a call. We can always help you with stirrups as well. But for kids, now if you're buying a kid's saddle, they have these little things called trapaderos. And these are Mexican. They're for show and all kinds of things for the Mexican cowboys as well. However, trapaderos are really good for kids because it keeps their foot in the stirrup. Okay? And it sort of helps protect their toes. So a trapadero is really good, or for kids, you can get a boot cover that's flat that goes in the front of the stirrup. You just tie it on. Really, really good. But sometimes stirrups will come with the saddle and sometimes not. Not a big problem. However, if you're wanting to get a saddle and go out riding now, see if they have some there. It's going to cost you a little bit more if you do it right there. Then you want to also get yourself some stirrup hobbles. So with the leather coming through the strap here, up like in here, in my little pint-sized saddle. This will go around the base to hold it. It's really good to hold them in place, okay? It's really nice to hold the saddle or them in place, because then this part doesn't flop around on the horse, doesn't flop around on you. It protects the stirrup, it protects the stirrup leathers and everything in it, okay? So these are called a stirrup hobble. You can get them either like this one here has a little shape to them. You could stamp your initials in them. You can get them a straight strap, that kind of a thing. All right. So definitely about your stirrups and your stirrup straps. Okay, I hope this was helpful. So let's take the camera over to this other saddle for a minute, and I'm going to show you. One of the things about this Western saddle here, I'm going to show you down here, is one of the things why I say put things on a saddle rack is that this part here, okay, you were looking at this part. So this part of the saddle, if you look at this saddle and you go buy a used saddle similar to this is a no-no. No. I had to try and remold these so that they would go out. If the leather is really, really hard when you're buying a saddle, I would walk away, only because the saddle, one, wasn't taken care of. You don't know the condition of the saddle. You can bring it back to some softness, but again, if it's been left and not taken care of, you cannot bring it back. I have so many people want me to restore their saddles, and I can put 6 layers of oil on that thing, and it still absorbs and it's still hard as rock. So if you're coming across some leather that is hard, walk away. The other thing with this, I cannot get this I can't mold this side out very well. So this is going to create a pressure point in the horse's shoulder. You're going to start rubbing that horse's shoulder's hair. Don't do that. Don't buy a saddle that is way in like this. What they've done is, instead of putting it on a saddle stand, they've laid it down where it's on its horn. I'm going to back this up. They've laid it on its horn this way and stored it that way. Big no-no. Don't ever do that to your saddles. Please, please, please don't do that to your saddles. The other thing about this saddle is a wonderful saddle. It's a great older saddle, but if you work with this saddle, taking care of a new saddle, when you get it, if it is hard, you want to condition it and oil it. You want to be careful on how you condition and oil it. So I use a product called Black Rock, and I use Be Natural products, Rudy's and Amore. But you can condition it, but if you put neat's foot oil on it over and over and over and over and over again, or this person sent it to somebody who doesn't know how to really clean and condition a saddle because they were trying to get the mold out. I did get it out and it's still out, so that's a good sign. However, they put a waxy product on it, so I had to strip the saddle down and put some oil on it. When you buy a saddle, please make sure that it has some supple softness to it, because if you put too much neat's foot oil on a saddle, you will ruin it. You can't get it out, and it'll continue to bleed and bleed and bleed oil. And you'll say, what can I do? You really can't do anything. Even if you put a finish over it, it's going to bleed oil. So be really, really mindful. The other thing too is, if you have somebody local that does leather repair, bring the saddle to them like you do a car. Can I take it to a mechanic and have it checked out? Take it to somebody who does saddles, saddle maker, saddle repair. Or even if you can't do that, we do have a service where we can FaceTime. We can't touch and feel the saddle, but we could get really close and give you some resources and advice about that saddle. Or we can say, hey, they're asking too much, and maybe ask them to come down a couple hundred or something. Okay. The other thing about this saddle is, and I told you before, if you look at this seat, it's got a tear. Okay. And they said, well, can you put a patch over that? Yeah, you can. But the thing is, this is the point of the saddle where your legs go and that rubbing goes back and forth. You can put a patch over it, but leather to leather, and even if we skive and patch it, it's going to actually start rolling up. So again, excuse me, whoever worked on this saddle ruined the seat. This is sticky, whatever they put on here. This should actually be, I don't know if you can see it, but it should be rough out. This is rough out. So if this is really hard and sticky, I would walk away. Now, some barrel racers and things like that, they like to put some, stickiness on there. This is not a barrel racing saddle. Okay, be mindful. It should look a rough out, or it should have some smooth spots here, but that's it. Okay, so let's talk about treeless saddles. So those are some of the things. Treeless saddles, I don't like them. Okay, people buy them for the reason that they're nice and light. This is my opinion. I work on saddles. They've worked on saddles for 20 years. I don't personally like them. I think they break down. And the reason why you have a wood tree that is covered, it has some give, it has some support. Same with an English tree, you're going to have a metal support. There is a support there. And if you take away that support and you wear that saddle down over time, you begin to make pressure points. Okay, it's just a preference. And if you look at endurance saddles and all different kinds of saddles, pack saddles, they even have a wood panniard or the wood bars to put on the horse because it's support. They need some type of support. We're kind to our horses, okay? So let's move to the English saddle. I'm going to stop this for a second. I'm going to set up and we're going to move to the English saddle for those of you that may want to cross over and do an English saddle, all right? Okay, we're back, and I have an English saddle, the same one that was moldy before. We got it unmoldy. It is showing signs that it's going to come back because it obviously is deep inside the leather. However, a lot of the times when you buy an English saddle, they don't come with the leathers. Okay, so most of the times you don't have the leathers and the stirrups. They just come with this piece here. One of the things that you want to look at, it depends on if you're doing dressage, if you're doing jumping, if you're just doing all-purpose, say you just want to ride the trails. A lot of times this is called an all-purpose saddle. Depends on if this front part is built up for jumping. Sometimes they're going to have bars underneath here. This is going to be built up because it wants to hold your knee in place while you're jumping. Okay, we're just talking in general about English saddles right now. So you want to make sure that this padding, this one here, the padding is pretty much gone where her knee went. You want to look for this padding. You want to make sure that there is equivalent padding in there, that it's not ripping, it's not tearing, it's not ripping in here, okay? For the English saddle, if you buy a saddle that is starting to tear in here, this whole piece has to be replaced, and most of it is done by hand. Okay, it's going to be a little spendy, and inside, depending on what they packed it with, whether they packed it with wool or foam or whatever the saddle maker decided to use, you would have to replace that as well. Okay, when you're looking at an English saddle, I'm going to turn this around a little bit. My dog wants in on the video here. Okay, so we're looking at the seat. Okay, so the one thing that people come to me about with their English saddles a lot, when you buy an English saddle, if it has this, I would say walk away. If it has a split here, okay, this means that this seat is beginning to get thin because the legs are rubbing it, all right, rubbing, and it begins to split here. Unless you have about $1,500, $1,200 to $1,500 to replace this seat, then you will be paying a lot of money for the saddle. Be careful, do not, walk away. There's a lot of saddles for sale, There is somebody that I had bought a little small English saddle from Florida, and they said that they had their seat redone for $800. I haven't ever seen one that low, but make sure that they have done seats before you spend your money on it, okay? Now the other thing too is to look at, let me see if I can do this. And I'm gonna move the camera, so bear with me just a minute. So if you look at the underside of this, these are called the billets. Now when you're looking at a new or used English saddle, really look at how close, I'm gonna bring this in closer. Keecho, you gotta move, honey. And you wanna look and make sure that these billets are nice and not cracked, they're not ripped, the holes aren't ripped, and a lot of the times you have to look. And I'm going to put this back up here. Sorry, guys. I just think you guys got to see the inside of this. How they're put on here and making sure that they are going to be, everything is nicely sewn in. This one is really, really good. This is a nice quality saddle. She bought it for low price because somebody didn't know what they had and she's going to resell it. But you want to make sure that the billets. Now, if the billets are not very good, but the rest of the saddle is, it doesn't mean a no. What you can do is have those billets replaced. I do billets all the time. All the time I do billets, okay? The underside of the saddle is really important to look at, okay? And I told her about this one. I don't know if you can see this in the camera. You should be able to. So I'm going to try to move this. Okay, so here's the underside of the saddle. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Okay, up in here you can see where this is starting to buckle. This is pressure points. And let me see if I can do this with this one. You see here, watch here and here as I move the saddle. Okay. Those are buckling points. That's pressure points. Time to reflock the saddle. Or if somebody does a spot flock, they can do a spot flock. However, that's sort of a temporary thing. You also want to look and make sure that the back is nice and firm when you're looking at an English saddle. This one, again, I would want to reflock probably the whole thing. Okay, but those are the things. Make sure it's nice. Look inside and make sure everything is stitched. Okay, you want to doubly inspect. Now, there is a way also to see if this tree has been twisted or what way, that maybe somebody's been riding too much on the left, too much on the right. If I take it and I look down, it's better to put it on the floor and do this. So we have this on the floor. My feet, I'm in little slippers, guys. My feet, I have just touching there, okay? Now this is if you're buying a saddle, this is really important. So it could be laying like this, but you wanna get your eyeballs down the center of this saddle. So I'm sort of crouched a little bit. I'm 5'2", so I'm crouched a little bit, but I am looking down this part of the saddle. And I am looking at seeing if this side is bigger or this side is bigger or if it's twisted. So this one here, definitely somebody's riding more on their right side because this is flatter than this is. And so you want to look at it and make sure that one isn't super flat and one isn't super big, because this is going to throw the horse off if you ride more on your left side, because this right side is flatter than your left side. So making sure that they look pretty even is one part of your underside of your English saddle. Same with the point, or the points are on the other side, but the crinkling of the front of the saddle. Okay, so that's something that you can watch for when you're buying an English saddle. Okay, so now we're going to talk about saddle seat size and gullet size on an English saddle, okay? When you're looking for an English saddle, we do not go from the top of the pommel. We do not do this, okay? We don't do this. We don't do this. Okay, that's not the way to do an English saddle. I've seen so many people on videos saying, okay, this is how you do your, and they have no clue that they're giving them the wrong measurement. when you want to measure an English saddle, always take a tape measure with you or a ruler or something with you when you're going to go buy saddles, Western or English. You're going to go from the button to the center of the back of this saddle. So this is a 17-inch saddle. Again, this is where her butt is going to sit. So this is 17 inches. And you have to know when you're sitting in this saddle, depends on a dressage saddle, depends on a all-purpose saddle, depends on if it's a saddle seat, totally different kind of saddle, where you're going to be placing, okay? Because again, your center point of balance is over the stirrups. And that's why you see endurance riders, watch an endurance race a lot. They do ride a lot in their stirrups. Just because they're allowing that horse to get that hind end movement forward, that kind of a thing, okay? So on your gullet, you're gonna go, just like a Western saddle, you're gonna go from button to button. So this one is very narrow because here's the button. So you would go from button to button. And this one here is just under, well, go from there. It is 4 inches, a 4-inch gullet. Okay, so this would be a little bit of a narrow gullet for an English saddle. You want to pay attention to the bottom first for the horse, top for you. So it might be, oh, well, I don't like the color. I don't like this. You know, they do have finishes on them, but I have re-dyed many English saddles. In fact, I will show you one that I just did. And this is another thing to look for, guys. So this is a little 13-inch saddle that came in pretty much almost this color, all right? So one of the things, again, when you're, this is why online, ask, questions, photos, because this one here looked great and everything, but then when you flipped it over, there was, mice had chewed through this whole piece here. Now, for me, because it's a kid's saddle, I just go ahead and restuff it, and then I put a patch over it because this part is going to hit the horse more, but I also skived it to try to keep it thin. But you could have to replace this whole piece here. You don't want to do that for a kid's saddle, really. So for somebody who's going to ride it every now and then or whatever, this is a great little saddle. However, this is re-dyed and refinished and the seat is refinished with a chocolate color. So you can always change the color. You cannot change the gullet. You cannot change the seat size. This number 1, this number 2 for you guys. All right? So that is the English saddle. A lot easier than a Western saddle, but they're both very, very important, okay? So when you're buying a saddle as well, okay, now that we've looked at them, we've gone over each one. When you're buying a saddle as well, be really mindful. So if you're buying from a tax store or a consignment or things like that, get everything in writing. Make sure you get everything in writing from your deposit on a receipt, how much you put down, or if some places require you to pay the whole thing up front, and if you bring it back, and it didn't fit, you get your whole amount back. Please make sure, because sometimes they may say, well, that's not what we said. Most places don't have contracts. I do, because I'm criminal justice background. I have contracts or receipts for everything, or I say it up front. For like example, if I do a video, I say, I'm going to use your saddle in a video. Are you okay with that? Okay to do in a video. So those kind of things you want to make sure. But when it's buying a saddle, you really want to make sure you have receipts for everything, that you know the return policy before you sign or put any money down. These poor people sort of lost about $250 when they shouldn't have, along with they shouldn't have paid $800 for this saddle. Okay, so definitely want to be mindful and just do your due diligence. Ask the questions, ask the seller all that you need to know before you hand over that dollar. It is hard to make those dollars. Horses are expensive, and that's why I do these videos, to save you some money. Do not go on a word these days means absolutely nothing but a piece of paper in a court of law. And the other thing, this is one that's really, really hard. I'm going to tell a really short story. So this is why I'm doing this video, for safety. And I feel really, really bad that they got this saddle and it broke the way that they did. So I'm going to tell you a really quick story. There's a city in the state that I live that had a tack store. They had an Australian saddle that they sold to a girl who wanted to trail ride. Not a problem, not a big deal. Although if you watch my video on the undersides of saddles, there is a Australian saddle in there, and this is why what happened. However, it's not a true Australian saddle, because somebody who is an Australian saddle maker told me why it wasn't. So they sold this saddle. The girl went on a trail ride. Horse had an accident, and the girl was killed. Okay, that family sued the tack store, and they sued the people. They lost their home, they lost their tack shop, they lost everything. This is why I am anal in selling saddles and being very careful at the ones I choose to sell. So be really, really careful, because I don't want you to get injured. I don't want you to have any accidents because of some neglect of somebody else in selling a saddle. I'm probably going to get a lot of crappy feedback. I'm out for the buyer at this point, because it costs a lot of money. There are some good saddles out there, even for a couple $100s. It's just you're going to have to TLC them a little bit, because they're older saddles. They are maybe heavier because they were made properly. And so they're going to be a little bit heavier. What do we do as we get older when we want to buy a saddle? We don't look for the lightest one. We don't look for a treeless one. We look for one that is not only going to fit our horse, but maybe that we can get some help with putting it on the horse or whatever we need to do. But it needs to be safety with the horse so that you come home to your family uninjured and safe. So that's why I did this video. I'm a little peeved, as you could tell, because this just came into me yesterday, and I thought, I got to do a video. I just got to do a video. But it's also to help the buyer understand what they need to look for when buying even a new saddle, or even you're having a saddle made. Ask them, what kind of riggings do you use? Know your saddle parts. I have, if you want, maybe I should put it on my website. It has all the saddle parts. 4-H teaches this stuff to our kids. We should know it as adults. I need to fix that thingy bobber on the bottom. I'm like, the skirting. And I'm like, skirting? There's no skirting on the bottom. Well, you know that fluffy stuff. The fleece. The shearling, the fleece. Know the parts of your saddle so that you can be educated when you go to buy a saddle, that they know what you're looking for, and you sound a little smart about it. I hope this was helpful. Please comment below if this has been helpful, if you bought a saddle and things went wrong, or even if you don't know the rights of buying a saddle or what you can do if you've been taken advantage of. Give me a comment. I will email you and let you know. Go to our website, theleatherladyllc.com, for products, DIY kits, classes, workshops. There's even some motorcycle stuff, aviation, sheepskins. We sell a lot of sheepskin and leather crafting tools. I hope this was helpful. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.